The Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty has given me life. Job chapter 33, verse 4. Brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you once again to this second day of our study under the theme Healthful Living, and our memory text still remains 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 31, which says, "Whether therefore ye eat or drink, or in whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God." I'm your fellow servant of Christ, Brother Babalanda Samson. I'm glad once again for this second day that the Almighty has allowed us to continue studying more of His Word. Today, without wasting time, we shall be looking at the lungs and respiration. Yesterday, we saw the organ of digestion. And under the lungs and respiration, we are going to talk about physiology of respiration. It is believed that the health of the entire system depends upon the health action of the respiratory organs, meaning that when the respiratory organs are acting well, then the whole body, the whole system will have a healthy activity. Therefore, treat your lungs in a healthy condition in order to live a healthy life. In order to have good blood, we must breathe well. That is a statement from the health reformer, November 1st, 1871. The lungs, in order to be healthy, must have pure air. Wow! Meaning that the opposite is true. The lungs, in order to be unhealthy, must have an impure air. Let me hope you've understood that well. Your lungs deprived of air will be like a hungry person deprived of food. Indeed, we can live longer without food than without air, which is the food that God has provided for the lungs. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, Paragraph 533. Brothers and sisters, the strength of the system is in a great degree dependent upon the amount of pure, fresh air breathed. If the lungs are restricted, the quantity of oxygen received into them is also limited. So, to the ladies who put on tight bras, sometimes you restrict the chest from expanding to its normal, hence affecting the amount of oxygen that enters the lungs. So you should take note and be very careful of this. If the lungs are restricted, the quantity of oxygen received into them is also limited. The blood becomes vitiated and disease follows. Wow. If your breathing is not well, if your breathing is not normal, if your oxygen supply is limited, then it gives chance for the body to be diseased. You will suffer from what we call asphyxia. You find that it is impossible to go out in the breathing air of a winter's morning without inflating the lungs. The compression of the waist by tight lacing prevents the waste matter from being thrown off through its natural channels. The most important of these is the lungs. In order for the lungs to do the work designed, they must be free without the slightest compression. Can you imagine? If the lungs are cramped, they cannot develop, but their capacity will be diminished. Wow, this is very sad, making it impossible to take a sufficient inspiration of air. The abdominal muscles were designed to aid the lungs in their action. I repeat, the abdominal muscles were designed to aid the lungs in their action. Now, if you put on a very tight shirt, for instance, that prohibits you from breathing normally, it means you are affecting the lungs indirectly or directly. Where there is no compression of the lungs, the motion in full breathing will be observed to be mostly of the abdomen. That's why when we are taking the respiratory rate of an individual, we can hold the abdomen. So you count the in and out cycles. Therefore, if the abdomen is left free without any compression, then you will experience full inspiration. When tight lacing is practiced, the lower part of the chest has not sufficient room for action. When you put on tight clothing, you'll find that you'll not get full expansion of the chest, and that one will affect the amount of air or oxygen that will enter into the lungs. The breathing, therefore, is confined to the upper portion of the lungs, where there is not sufficient room to carry on the work. But the lower part of the lungs should have the greatest freedom possible. The compression of the waist will not allow free action of the muscles of the respiratory organ. Wow. The compression of the waist will not allow free action of the muscles of the respiratory organs. The Health Reformer, November 1st, 1871. Therefore, brothers and sisters, we should always put it in our mind that any problem that happens to our chest, abdomen, and waist may directly or indirectly affect our breathing. We should make sure that our respiratory organs are kept in a healthy condition. May God help us to observe all the measures of better life and better health. May you be blessed. I love you.